I call the honourable member for Riverina.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Brave Bernie boy Cameron Baird was the fourth digger to receive the Victoria Cross for Australia during Operation Slipper. He was the 100th Australian VC recipient. There would be no ceremony at which he would have the highest honour for gallantry, for valour, pinned to his chest. There can be no greater love than to lay down your life for your friends, and this is what Corporal Baird did. His VC was posthumously awarded, and I remember all too well when then Prime Minister Tony Abbott announced the fact that Corporal Baird would receive this honour. Corporal Baird's parents were sitting just here, just to my left, and afterwards a long line of MPs went up to thank Doug and Kay Baird for the service and sacrifice of their son, their loved son. And I well remember, through her tears, his mum saying to one of my colleagues, "No, thank you. Thank you for giving us the honour of having our son represent his nation." Corporal Baird's actions on his fourth tour of duty, think of that, fourth tour of duty in Afghanistan, are as courageous as any in that long line of khaki stretching back to Gallipoli and beyond. There has been a lot of commentary, given the human tragedy unfolding in Kabul over the past week or so, about whether the life of Corporal Baird and 40 other Australians were lost in vain. But perhaps it's not for the media commentators in the safe sanctity of their television studios, or anyone else for that matter, to perhaps have that final say. It probably more should be up to the family and friends of those who laid down their lives for their friends to have that view. And I phoned Doug Baird this morning, as I did back on April 17, the day after now Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced the withdrawal of the troops from Afghanistan. And Doug Baird, who's become a friend of mine, he said it was a sombre experience. He said, "If my son's life has helped others to have a better life, to have a more secure environment, to protect the interests and freedoms and democracy of Australians, then that's a price he was willing to pay." And to that end, he was very thankful for the Prime Minister making that announcement back in April, but also very thankful of the fact that people are saying to him, "Thank you for your son's service." And I messaged Mark Donaldson, another VC recipient as well. He's also a mate of mine, and he's one of the lucky ones who came back. And he's now doing some great work with Boeing and some great work with veterans. And he often gathers with his friends and his former comrades to talk about their service in Afghanistan, that troubled country. And today, as we reflect on the service and sacrifice, on the blood shed by Australians and others in Afghanistan, we say thanks to those brave men. And we should say thanks each and every day, not just on Remembrance Day, Armistice Day, not just on Anzac Day, but every day. We should always remember what they have done for us. Corporal Baird went through Kapooka. It's the recruit training centre for the Army in my hometown of Wagga Wagga. There is a trophy which is given at each march out in his honour to the most outstanding soldier. And as Doug Baird said, he looks forward, when COVID restrictions ease, he looks forward to coming to Kapooka and attending one of those march outs. And we should be very proud of those men and women who march out of Kapooka. Another who has done just that is Corporal Daniel Kieran, VC, who now serves in the Australian Army Reserve, posted to Army headquarters. He was on the ABC's Q&A last Thursday, and on the program he gave some timely insights, including this. As a veteran myself serving, I know there's a lot of hurt in the veteran community right now. Let me say that your service absolutely was worthwhile in Afghanistan. I know, myself, doing 2 tours, spending some 16 months outside the wire, as they say, I was fortunate enough to see that change. From my first tour in 2007 to 2010, I saw the change in the smiles on the faces of the kids from going where they were in 2007 to 2010. The uniforms, the infrastructure projects, there was a real sense the country was turning around, without a doubt. So it is quite disheartening, I know, as a veteran that has served with the Afghan National Army, that has fought beside them, that has lost mates on the ground over there, fighting for human rights, to see the scenes that are coming out of Kabul and Afghanistan now. So for those veterans, my message to you is pretty simple. Hold your head up high. You should be proud of what you achieved. And Darren Chester, member for Gippsland, former Veterans Affairs Minister, was also on that program. And he talked about the need, the necessity for veterans to reach out to those various services that are available. Open Arms, Veterans and Families Counselling Service on 1800 011 046, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Safe Zone Support 1800 142 072, a free and anonymous counselling line for current serving Australian Defence Force personnel, veterans and their families. And when people call Safe Zone Support, it's up to them to disseminate how much information they want to or not. And the member for Gippsland also said that no Australian veteran, no serviceman or woman who served in Afghanistan should feel anything other than pride in their mission that they were endeavouring to fulfil. He said they acted enormously with great integrity, with humility, with compassion, and also had to do a very difficult job, and they should be proud of what they did in their efforts to secure some form of peace in Afghanistan. And he talked about the dedication that our diggers and others served in their role. They were looking, he said, to secure whatever an Afghanistan form of peace might look like. But whether it was an intelligence failure over the last few weeks or whatever has occurred, the military clearly wasn't capable of withstanding the Taliban, and the speed with which the country was overrun, I think, took everyone by surprise. And those scenes at the international airport and the scenes we've been seeing on our news all this week would be disturbing for a lot of veterans. So I'd encourage you to make sure you reach out to your mates, call a few mates, see how they're travelling. I had the chance to talk to a couple of family members who lost loved ones, both in Afghanistan but also post the war, people who lost the battle at home, and they're feeling pretty bruised by what they're seeing on the news, and it's just important that people do reach out and support each other if they're having difficulty at this time. And they are fine words, and they were eloquently spoken by both the former Veterans Affairs Minister and certainly by Daniel Kieran VC, and also by Doug Baird, who said to me this morning about the quickness, that was the word he used, the quickness of how the Taliban has resumed control in that country. And of course we know that the situation in Afghanistan is evolving rapidly, it's changing by the hour, it's volatile, it's dangerous, and I want to thank those current men and women in uniform who are doing what they can on the government's instruction and at the Australian people's request to go in and save what they can and to attempt to get as many Australians and others out as possibly they can. And we acknowledge the more than 40,000 Australian Defence Force personnel and civilians who served in Afghanistan, who must be watching on with horror, as we all are, at the scenes that are occurring in Kabul in particular. As the PM has said, Australia, working with others, sought to make a failed state a functional state. We call on, of course, the Taliban to cease all the violence against civilians and to retain the rights that women have and have because of the efforts of our diggers. And we say again to our diggers, to our brave men and women, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for what you have done for making Afghanistan a better place, and we hope that that troubled country can find some peace into the future.